Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier and this is Ship Updates, but it's not gonna quite be all about ships because of course today we got the big Squadron 42 vertical slice demo. It was over an hour of gameplay and it was pretty darned impressive. Now there were some bugs, there were some parts where it was kind of like, okay, things are kind of dragging here, let's move it along. But overall, it looked really good. You saw a little bit of sneaking up on people and knifing them. You saw some shooting. You saw some ship-to-ship combat, which kind of looked a little bit funky, but obviously work in progress. Overall, it was pretty damned impressive stuff. And I left having thoroughly enjoyed it. And I was very impressed by the overall locale. Now, of course, we've seen Shubin before, but not like this and not in a long time. Squadron 42 had gone dark for quite a while. Now, one of the things that we had heard about Squadron 42, and this is going up almost about 7 or 8 months ago, was that Squadron 42 was contingent on a lot of the tech that was coming in 3.0. And of course, throughout this demo, you're going to see a lot of that, picking up objects, interacting with objects. Some of the things you may have seen in a lot of people's gameplays, mine as well, where you're interacting with objects, picking them up, putting them on, that sort of thing. That is a lot of the stuff that we've seen in 3.0, and of course that was a lot of stuff that needed to be finished before Squadron 42 could be moved further ahead, because there's so many things in the world that you have to interact with. Obviously they need all that tech in place, and that's probably one of the big reasons why we hadn't seen a lot of Squadron 42 for the last year. Now, of course, throughout the first half of the demo, we got a first-class tour of the Idris. And, you know, we've seen snippets of the Idris here and there. We've seen little bits and little pieces, but we've never seen the whole thing in one big tour. And you know, this was an hour of gameplay, and pretty much the first half of it was while you're interacting with different people and talking to them, you're basically, yeah, you're getting a first-class tour of the Idris, and it was a pretty damned impressive ship. Now, later on in the show, we did find out that they still have yet to do final flight preparation for this ship, but, you know, previously we had seen two Idrises kind of flying and fighting each other, so I think, you know, some people saw that, myself included, and went, whoa, the Idris is almost ready. Still, I guess, a few hurdles to cross before this ship is done, though the interiors looked amazing, and it is a very, very nice ship. Not a ship that I own myself, but still a very impressive ship. Now, in addition to Squadron 42, we also saw this bad boy here. This is the Tumbril Nova. This is the super heavy tank that is up for concept sale from now until January the 15th. Now, the price is $95 for new money, $105 for recycled money. I just try to focus on the task at hand. But there are some things that you should be aware of. Now, there is already a whole Q&A posted on the RSI website, and tomorrow, which is Saturday, I plan on putting up a video where I kind of go through the whole Q&A, but that's going to be a fairly long video, so we're going to save that until tomorrow. But just quickly, two things that I pulled out of that Q&A that I thought were relevant. One is the size of this vehicle. Now, this is a very big vehicle. So this is not going to fit on a Connie. This isn't going to fit in the back of a Cutlass or a Freelancer either. The only ship that they really are committing to in the Q&A is the Idris being able to carry this thing. Now, some might argue possibly the Carrack, but when you start to see more of the photos of this ship, this tank, you start to realize just how big this thing is. It is enormous, absolutely enormous. So, if you're thinking for sure that, you know, the Carrack can carry this thing, when you look at the scale of the people standing next to them, I would call that, along with that long-ass barrel on it, I would call that a bit of a question mark. So, I mean, while it is impressive and it certainly looks cool, it has a lot of interesting features to it. It's an unmanned turret. It's got a fully, a fully realized space within it, like a play space, so you can actually get into the vehicle, possibly store weapons and armor in there, use it as a bit of a hybrid APC/tank. It has anti-air. It has its own remotely operated guns on top of the turret, not just the main gun. There's a lot of good features and a lot of well thought out features in this tank. It's big. It is really, really big. So
Hi. Nice to meet you.
it might present a bit of a logistical nightmare
Sorry, Lieutenant.
getting
Back to
it
work.
from A to B, because remember,
Stanton
at
here,
some
Primera.
point in Star Citizen in the future, we're no longer just going to be able to spawn our vehicles wherever we want them. We're going to have them delivered, or we're going to have to move them to that location themselves. And so this might be somewhat of a pain in the ass to get this thing from point A to point B. That's something to think about. Also, in the write-up, they list the rate of fire of the main gun as between 30 to 50 rounds per minute. And that's a size 4 gun. I would guess that that estimate is a little bit on the high side. If you look at other FPS games where you can drive tanks, for instance, say Battlefield, you're looking at tanks that have a rate of fire of maybe 12 to 15 rounds per minute, sometimes as low as 10. So I think that that number is probably a little bit high. I'm not sure. So be aware that even though that sounds like a really great rate of fire and it sounds really awesome, that number, I would guess, personally, I would guess that that number is going to come significantly down by the time it is kind of balanced out and fully realized.
Morrow's right about the new alley layout.
Nonetheless, apart from its size, there's nothing really that I look at it and I see it and I go, oh, that's a bit of a, I'm not too sure about that, or that design's bad. I mean, if you see how tall it is and you see the little guns perched up between those two guys on the top, so you can kind of possibly engage infantry, or maybe you can turn them upwards and engage a ship or a space bike or something like that. It's a well thought out design. And, even though it looks like it kind of has a bit of a high center of gravity, it may not be so fast that that really comes into play all that often. I know that the community has discussed tanks before, and obviously CIG has discussed it before, and we've gotten little hints here and there about tanks, and now we finally have one. It's definitely something interesting, but I think it may present a bit of a logistical nightmare for the average player. Now, additionally, one of the other things that we found out was, of course, about the update to the Avenger. Now, of course, the Avenger, the 300i, and the Aurora were all ships that were from the very beginning and needed a bit of an update. The Aurora went first, the Avenger is next, and then the 300i. Well, we found out some details about the Avenger. One of the things that we did find out is it did get bigger, but that shouldn't change the overall profile all that much. Additionally, you'll be able to walk through the ship now without having to crouch down, which of course caused a lot of collision issues for a lot of players. I mean, certainly when you're going from the front to the back of the ship, you'll notice your character jittering around all over the place as they're kind of bumping up against various surfaces. Hopefully in the near future that will all be resolved. Of course, that is not in 3.0 yet, but that is something to come in the future. So for those of you who are hardcore Penguin fans, don't worry, very, very soon you'll be able to walk through your ship without your character looking like they're in the terminal phases of St. Vitus's dance.
I sincerely appreciate the offer.
And of course, if you haven't heard yet, it has been announced, PTU for all. Everyone can now get into the 3.0 PTU. Now, I'm going to put a link in the description of this video to this post so you can read it, because there's a bit of a trick to getting around in the 3.0 PTU, getting everything started, because it's not the usual links. A lot of us who originally, when we got into the 3.0 PTU, we immediately just started downloading the PTU, only to find out that we were getting the 2.6.3 client version and not the 3.0. So something to be aware of. Once again, link in the description below. But that is it for today, because obviously at this point you've probably already clicked off of this video and are now going to download the 3.0 PTU and enjoy it for yourself. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the show, and thanks for watching.